I'll call. I don't know. Are you ready? All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The date is August 14th, 2023. The time is now 7:05 p.m. Please let the record show that we have a 5-minute late start to our 7 o'clock council meeting as we were adjourned briefly from a public work session on parking. So tonight, yes, it is the second Monday in the month of August. We normally don't meet on the second Monday. We meet on the first and third Monday, but last Monday we had a threat of severe weather. And I'm able, under executive action of declare an emergency, to suspend council meetings. I can't cancel council meetings. So we're having what we would call a modified meeting tonight because we had a presentation we wanted to get presented to the public from Think Big. They're here tonight to speak. We had some public comment on 3 ordinances that we want to keep on legislative schedule for the next meeting. So again, this isn't a full-blown all the director reports and things like that meeting and budget transfers, but this is just a few legislative items, a public hearing on 3 ordinances, and of course we'll take public comment under item number 6. So we'll go ahead and start with public hearing. So the first one is going to be on ordinance number 1113 concerning amending portions of chapter 205 zoning, commercial industrial districts. This is an ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, adopted pursuant to authority of the Article 11E, the Maryland Constitution, the local government and land use articles of the Annotated Code of Maryland, and sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter, to amend portions of the city code and zoning. And so normally what I do, if anybody pre-filled out a form, I will call on those citizens first. But if you didn't, it's okay. I'll still get you to speak. But I'm pretty sure I have Miss Robin Shane, who filled out. Yes, would you like to come on up? I have your paper here. Good evening, Mrs. Shane, and welcome to the public hearing. May you please have your name and address for the record.
Sure. It's Robin Shane, 414 Webb Lane, Havre de Grace, Maryland.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. In reading, first of all, I want to announce that I'm really glad you guys are trying to diversify the commercial and industrial. This has been a long time coming, and of course everybody knows that we had 20-some meetings and all that stuff, and it just sat, which was very disappointing, but I'm glad to see it moving forward. I still feel that the industrial areas is in good areas that you're putting over there. The commercial itself is still big. I think it would be nice if there was in both the commercial and industrial. I have a question in that manufacturing is permitted according to what the current definitions are in there. And one of the questions I have is that you have breaking out bakeries, yet it's still, are you going to address the definition within the manufacturing definition that is on the books? Because bakery is number E.
I'm sorry, what was the last thing you said?
Bakery is item number E within the city's definition of what is under manufacturing. So now bakeries are going into a conditional use, and yet I want you guys to realize that under your definition, manufacturing is a permitted use, yet you've singled out bakery and laundry. So are you going to change the definitions that are on the books now? That's one of my questions.
Yes. So what I'll do, I understand what you're asking with the conflict of permitted versus conditional.
Yes.
Mr. Boissier, is that something you caught, or do you have a different interpretation?
On my version.
Well, I just printed this out today.
Okay, so are you looking at letter V under conditional uses where it says manufacturing uses?
I am, let's see. All right. So on the one I printed out today of what your recommendations are,
Okay.
you have You have manufacturing,
Can you tell me the line number?
yes. It is V.
Yeah, so that's in bold, that's actually getting removed.
That's getting removed?
Anything in bold is removed, anything underlined is new.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then that changes everything. Okay.
But we did add clean manufacturing as a conditional use. We did have clean manufacturing as a conditional use in the commercial district.
Okay, okay. So you're going to break out more definition as far as manufacturing then? You're breaking out, I just want to make sure that you have for manufacturing, you're deleting that, and then you're going to go further detail as to individual items. Is that the goal?
I guess let me take a step back. So what we did initially is, as you know, the commercial and industrial district, they're combined.
Yes.
So as an exercise, what we did is we didn't want to do a full redo yet because we're in the middle of the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
But we realized that there's the need to separate things that are going on Route 40 versus what things are more appropriate for the industrial park.
Correct.
So we actually just took everything that was already allowed in the industrial district, and we said this is more appropriate for commercial, this is more appropriate for industrial, this is appropriate for both, and then should it be permitted or should it be a conditional use? So the only thing that is new here, besides things sort of being in one area or not, is we've added some of the cannabis language that was required at the time.
Okay.
But all that we did was take some things out of the commercial that was more appropriate for industrial and industrial for commercial. I remember bakery specifically, somebody said, put that back in industrial. You know, you have industrial bakeries. It's not just Goals downtown.
Right, correct. Okay, so but that would be still a conditional use in the industrial section then, right? And then also in the commercial.
Let me just double check.
It would be a commercial bakery without a storefront would be a conditional use in the industrial zone.
That sounds right.
That was
Yep.
the difference.
Bakeries would be allowed in certain condition, as a conditional use in the commercial area with a certain lot size
Lot
requirements.
size.
That comes directly from what was there prior.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I didn't see bakery as a permitted use in the industrial or,
Commercial, it's conditional, and it's also, I think what Steve had mentioned, it's also allowed in the industrial, as long as it doesn't have a storm front, probably also as a conditional use.
see, that would confuse me a little bit because it just looks like it's under conditional use. I don't see bakery as a permitted use.
Yeah, it is as a conditional. Do you have a bakery?
No.
Okay. I was going to say, is there some way we could get it to work out?
No, actually, I also, one of the points, I know I only have 3 minutes, but one of the points that I'd like to see, if this is ongoing, is that you still, commercial, there is still light industrial.
Right.
Like, my business would be considered light industrial, okay? But I'm in the RB. So I know I'm grandfathered in, I can do whatever I want. But it would be nice that if within the commercial mindset, okay, of retail, of what you're saying is what's happening on Route 40, which is retail stores and things like that, would there also be consideration of light industrial to break it down even more? Or light, light commercial?
Well, in the commercial now industrial uses, we have veterinarian clinics, which I am not sure was allowed. Well, maybe it was allowed on 40 before, but there's wholesaling, storage, outside sales, laboratories, auto repair, and then as a conditional use, we have gas stations, bakeries, depending on the size, laundromat, distilleries, clean manufacturing. Uses related to the sale, retail, maintenance, or storage of commercial vehicles. So I think there's a number of things that we consider to be that light industrial that sort of fit into the Route 40 area that we have in the code now. But if there's something specific that you
I'm looking at, what I see in the future is that more and more of the smaller trades are starting to grow. All right, and that would be machine shops, plumbing shops, things like that. And I just don't want to get into a situation where everybody thinks that this is just retail. You're
Right.
selling to the public. But in reality, a light industrial is actually selling to, a lot of times to heavy industrial, because they make the parts that make the machines go. And so the realization there is that perhaps that maybe light industrial should be considered as part of the rezoning.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I guess I have one other thing, since we're talking about zoning, is that I hear a lot of complaints about how ugly the buildings are and stuff like that, and how they shouldn't be there and stuff like that. Architectural committee really stops all that. So if you have an architectural committee, you can have it go through them, and it makes it look nice. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Shane.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
We are on public hearing for ordinance 1113 concerning amending portions of Chapter 205 zoning, commercial, industrial districts. Who else in the audience this evening is here to speak on this ordinance? Okay. Any comments from the council on ordinance 1113? All right, without any further comments from the public or the council, I will now close public hearing on ordinance 1113. The time is now 7:16. Okay, we're going to go to public hearing on ordinance 1114 concerning establishing tax credits for vacant lot conversions to public parking in the downtown business district. 1114 is an ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, and sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter, to establish tax credits for conversion of vacant lots in the city's downtown business district to public parking. Again, I will call on citizens who filled out a form, and then I'll just call on citizens at large. And I have Mr. John Clisavage. Good evening, Mr. Clisavage. Thanks for being here. Maybe please have your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is John Clisavage. I own 129, 131 North Washington Street in Havre de Grace, Maryland.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm glad to see, attending the work session today, that there were some major suggestions to change the ordinance, which is to remove the sections that dealt with removal of the visitor center and also the movement of that visitor center into the Opera House. With that being said, that's a major concern and the reason I'm here. But I'd also like to stress the fact that before we forget that, and also applaud you guys for taking the effort to increase parking to try to change some of the issues that we're running into with the revitalization. But the main thing to remember is that the visitor center has been something really magnificent to this town for a long time. We've been in business 31 years now, and the fact that where it has been located has been a wonderful place to both recommend people to and close and easy for people to get to. We get comments from the tourists that come into our store stating how much they enjoyed the visitor center, how the people were like family, how they greeted them, and their experience that they had there. Because it's located centrally, because it's located within a block of all the major downtown areas, it's a major concern to any idea of removing it. If you can update it, that's great, but the idea of removing it and moving it to the Opera House in any form, I totally disagree with, and I would push that you rethink that. I think the Opera House has become a major beauty to our town and what it does and what it provides in the arts, and it needs to be kept separate. I think the visitor center should be applauded for all its hard work, and especially for all the volunteers that work there. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it, because we constantly hear from people coming in how important it was to them and what their experience was. The last thing I'd like to stress, though, is that as you look for opportunities for parking, that you also remember that we're not a stagnant town. We're growing tremendously. You have Harmerstown, which is about to grow tremendously with their beautiful murals and everything else, and this will require a huge amount of parking. You've got the State Theater doing better and better with its events, with them turning out 500 people. And then you have the Stars Center, which has done tremendously with sellout crowds of 850 people. So I think all these are potential growth that is going to take even more parking than the parking that we're considering that we're losing with the revitalization. And we need to be planning for how we're going to prepare for those growth patterns too. And I thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, John. Okay, Ms. Jeanette Pollack. Good evening, welcome. May you please have your name and address for the record?
Jeanette Pollock, 218 South Washington Street, HDG.
Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you and the community about Ordinance 1114. The action has the appearance of being fast-tracked. While it's well-intentioned in focus of addressing parking options, it appears to possibly be reactionary and ill thought out, perhaps even premature and misguided. I say this as there is a lot of information that is not yet publicly available, if in fact it has been gathered. Has there been discourse and debate? What is the net gain? Is that worth the fiscal impacts? Have you measured the fiscal impacts? What are they? This also appears to fly in the face of sustainability. The current visitor center is well suited and well located for its purposes. Is the current visitor center in any way encumbered? Is the building facing any challenges, or is it in any way compromised? Current visitor center will be in the midst of the proposed uplifting, whereas Opera House is removed from it. The Opera House potential sacrifice of the first floor. What are the long-term impacts to the Opera House? Have they been forecast, evaluated, calculated? And is the trade-off for the short-term gain logical? It is not common to see an art center double as a visitor center. As a lifetime supporter of fine and performing arts who has visited many venues throughout the United States, I am concerned that what is proposed significantly diminishes the cachet of the Opera House. In the main, for the purpose of short-term gain, are we sacrificing long-term needs? Since tax incentives for property owners of vacant lots to convert to parking may be on the table, is this action being taken prematurely? Should we not wait to consider what parking may become available prior to this drastic action? I believe this action is being made in haste, sans due diligence, and is lacking in forward thinking. And I would like the record to reflect that we, my husband and I, are not in favor of closing or downsizing in any way the current visitor center. I respectfully request that the hard work be done to answer, weigh, and measure, then debate these questions. Should this have already been done, could it please be shared with the community? I thank you for the opportunity to express these thoughts, and I'm happy to share this to enter into the record.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Okay. Any citizen wish to speak on ordinance 1114? Yes, ma'am. Good evening and welcome. May we please have your name and address for the record?
Good evening. I'm Lisa Altland, 614 Chapel Heights Drive, Havre de Grace, Maryland.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm in agreement with this lady here. I feel like these parking plans have been put together in haste because now that the citizens are getting word that the 65 plus parking spaces are being done away with downtown, they want other ways of parking close to the downtown area. The one of the parking plan areas here that I was looking at was the angled parking along Congress Avenue. At a previous meeting, we were told that angled parking was a thing of the past, and that's why they don't want to keep it downtown. They want to do the parallel parking, but yet they want to change Congress between Washington and Market to angled parking. And I felt like that was a little bit of a thing. And is the money that to come up with these other projects or to go into any of these other projects, will this be part of the revitalization project, or will this be paid for by the taxpayers? I feel like that there is no being any compromise made to the revitalization project. If you were to come downtown, anybody on a busy day at 12 noon even, so on a nice day when people are walking around downtown or whatever, there's no parking there, and it has always been a problem. But now that the 65 spaces are being eliminated and people are getting word of it, now everybody's looking out, where can we find parking, where can we find parking? There have been added service businesses downtown, and there continues to be service businesses going in downtown. And I just feel like taking away the parking from the service businesses is a bad idea. So that's my feeling, once again, on the 65 spaces. I feel like that instead of trying to find quick ways to find parking, maybe we should think of compromise and staying with the parking that we have now and then create more parking for the future, because we are growing and there are businesses that require more parking that's going to be made available to them with the change in the revitalization project. One other thing I felt was the area where the tax credit conversion of vacant lots. I feel like that the mayor being authorized to do all of these things is a lot of power for one person to have without any council input or any council approval. So I feel like that before these leases should come into fruition, that they should at least be discussed with council before they're made, because, you know, depending on how many spaces, I mean, a lot of people say, hey, I got 3 spaces, I got 6 spaces, or whatever, is, you know, what's gonna happen when they hear that they don't have to pay their taxes anymore because they're gonna get a credit. So, that's all.
Thank you very much. Sir. Good evening. Please have your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name's Jared No, 325 St. John Street, the State Theater of Havre.
Welcome.
Yeah, hi guys. I prepared some statements, but I'll go off book first. I think what you guys are talking about removing the 5-point plan, I think it's good. I think you really just need to remove the 1 point out of the 5-point plan. I think that's what everybody is kind of up at arms about, which kind of leads into kind of what I wanted to kind of bring to your guys' conversation and kind of talk to. Was I think kind of the bigger issues that I kind of saw in kind of what's been going on in the city and kind of what our observations have been. So let me get back on book because I want to stay inside my time limit. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, City Council members, and City Administrators. My name is Jared No. For those that don't know me, I own the State Theater of Havre, and I've spent the last 5 years in this town, sweat, blood, tears, opening a 300, soon-to-be 500-seat theater located in the heart of downtown, bringing life to a 14,000 square foot building that is a 1927 building. It has its challenges. It has survived opening in 2020, continual design changes that have had to change more and more the more we've had people in there, the operations in the space, maximizing the usage, and really just fixing a 100-year-old building. So it's had its challenges inside of itself, and again, it's been a fun challenge to do with the city of Havre as we've kind of grown together. I also own my own company, Suited 4, which is a small Harford County-based production company that specializes in live entertainment, brand development, streaming, video and television production services. We work everywhere from convention centers in Caesar's Palace in Vegas, to boxing at Madison Square Gardens, to filming movies in Cambodia, and most recently, just some humble brag, front of house mixer now for the Washington Commanders. So 70,000 people, that's who I've mixed for. But I'm a Birds fan, so I bleed green, so go Birds. All right, so at least I get to see him 2 times a year, right? So I personally have been in the entertainment industry for about 20 years, and my company employs about a couple hundred people a year. This year alone, we've dropped over $150,000 into the State Theater alone between HVAC, electrical, siding, and roof upgrades, which are still ongoing. This year, we are also getting ready to drop another $200,000 in sprinklers in association with a state grant program for preservation of historic properties. Thank you, Julie, and I saw Randy snuck in the back there, for really helping us push that through. And we got a $100,000 grant for sprinklers to be able to do that, which is amazing. Because really it helps us be able to get in compliance with the city and really just, because really the state fire marshal was really the only one that really needed us to have that, really to be able to get over that, and really just preserve the building for the future generations. And really it's a Havre Grace landmark. I mean, it's a 100-year-old theater. So back to script, sorry. We've been supporting the theater, its funding and the upgrades solely on my back, my company's back, and through my wallet. The first state money we have gotten is through the sprinkler grant program, which is going to give us about $100,000 of the $100,000 we're going to have to spend between the hookups, between the construction internally in the building, between the deck, outfit, all that stuff inside. We're going to have to spend another $100,000 to get those sprinklers activated. Basically, just to get into compliance, it also increases our occupancy and allows us to open up that balcony, get the pool table and the shuffleboard going and all that kind of jazz. We did not receive any PPP or COVID cash because we opened in January of 2020. We opened for a month and a half. We also have received no other outside funding or financial donations from anyone. No other public nonprofit status currently. These expenses never end. There's always upgrades, there's always repairs. This is part of the theater game and challenge management and ownership of venues like the State Theater, the Star Center, and the Opera House, okay? You guys have felt that just like anybody else has. The state has brought to this area a ton of alternative entertainment, like wrestling, drag shows, and Rocky Horror screenings. Slip in the occasional tribute, but our heart and soul really is in the local artists, musicians, and theater productions that really have been the focus of content for this year, and what we are trying to really fill our seats with, and really just really focus on that local entertainment and artists. Jumping off book, during the pandemic, that was one of the biggest things for us, was having artists come to us and literally be like, I literally get to come here and sing. I get to put my emotions out there. And those guys kill themselves every single time they play. Just saying. We are even now forming a nonprofit board to manage the theater activities and training programs that, because art isn't created in a vacuum. It's not created by small groups of folks calling the shots and then the community. Sorry guys, I'm getting off book here. It takes a community and the building of the culture that really makes it thrive and grow. As an active member of the business community and the Downtown Merchants Group specifically, we've been very focused on the parking concerns downtown. We prepped a document through the merchant subcommittees, which had a lot of suggestions on how to fix the parking problem and alleviate the concerns over parking. I'm really happy to see that in this ordinance, you guys addressed a ton of those things that we sent over in that subcommittee. It was great seeing the subleases pop up. Lodge Lane is such an underutilized asset to this city. You drive down there and it's literally empty lot after empty lot after empty lot. It's perfect. So I'm so glad you guys were able to find a way to work out the insurances, the sublets, all that kind of stuff to make that happen. In comment to that, I hope that you guys do some low-cost upgrades to help those properties and to help incentivize those owners. Simple crush and run stuff. I just got a whole truckload the other day for $400, okay? If we can do some simple upgrades, really be able to help those business owners just to push them over the edge of getting those properties utilized. Imagine those spots right across from the city-owned lot, right behind, the new Fifth Company Brewery, liquor, whatever the heck they're doing. That whole lot back there. There's 60 spots right there. So I think there's a lot of potential down there. And it helps us with the surge parking, which is the biggest concern, which is, places like us, the Star Center, the Opera House, that does cause. Moving into the visitor center, into the Opera House, which was never suggested from the merchants. Basically, having worked at the Opera House space, it needs every inch of that property to operate as a fully functional production facility. Plain and simple. That's storage, that's dressing room space, that's small performances that you can use downstairs. The Mosaic project that's about to come up in the next, month, they utilize that entire black box space. You know, the way that I look at it, underutilizing a space does not mean it's not a part of that art space. With those bigger shows, things like that, I know Scott Field's done, you know, how many times do you guys use the Black Box Theater? Every time? Every single time. Right. And when you're doing costumes that they're this big around, you got to have storage for them, you know what I mean? And you can't do it upstairs. The space is too small. And it's not like they're going to use the fire hall space for that. So that's kind of my comments to the Opera House being the visitor center, because it's too small. Like, and even in our space, we're exploring the option of like how to basically build bigger green room spaces, have those extra rooms, have those extra spaces for people to actually be able to function as, like for wrestling, for example. We have to use our office space as like holding space for them and to be able to have the commissioners and stuff like that, be able to do wrestling checks and stuff like that. You lose that if you basically integrate in any kind of office space into that arts center, which this basically pivots into kind of where we're kind of going to. Almost 2 years ago, the city began work on the Star Center, which is a 40,000 square foot building and office space. With a Minnesota lot right next to it, across from City Hall, it's the obvious space to put offices in, physical office spaces. Additionally, I believe the city still leases the Amanda space. That makes a heck of a downtown like visitor center. If you're gonna have a downtown spot to have a visitors hub, it's right there in downtown. Another thing that I've also mentioned before, that we've mentioned in merchants, that is also kind of at the entrances to the city, doing more kiosk-based stuff. You already have your tourism stuff at the one end. Let's upgrade them. QR codes. Everybody uses them now. They're a great thing, and it ties into the existing infrastructure you guys already have, and it costs you nothing. Turn a poster, put it up there, laminate it, boom. We're starting to advertise on the outskirts, and we can start doing more of that digital infrastructure and really bringing the city to like 2023. What I've watched happen on the city side with the shift in management over the last 2 years, though, has really been disturbing. I've watched functional arms of government upended, venues being operated in a bubble, programming being organized by a select group of individuals from the city side, and communications with local groups and organizations is all but non-existent. Wire decisions about city-owned venues where about parking, programming, or anything else being decided with no oversight of the public or any kind of committee, or from what I've seen, any city council members actually having representation inside of these groups either. Multiple people in this room came to me during the 6 to 9 months of prepping and planning that I personally put into the Star Center from June 2021 through April of 2022. The glaring point of concern was that no one wanted the Star Center to become the Opera House 2.0 and not become a huge taxpayer burden. I wanted to use my 20 years of experience in entertainment and large-scale production management to address those concerns. As a matter of public record, I was never paid for consulting or planning services. As the new director was hired in the first quarter of 2022, I was subsequently pushed out of planning and programming from the Star. After being pushed out, I had canceled 1 to 2 shows a month of original content I had already soft booked for the Star Center for 2022. Events like boxing, mainstream comedians like Nikki Glaser and David Spade, conventions, other large events that we had planned to promote and host there. However, many of my operational plans and details from the early walkthroughs with the director were still used in the original layout. We cost nothing on paper per our original proposal that was sent in December of 2021 as a technical management partner. It would get paid, and we would only get paid if the venue was successful and both parties were basically incentivized for the success of the venue. And truly, it was a public partnership, or a free-to-public partnership is what we basically put on the table to the city, okay? When the fee structures were being discussed, again, multiple people in this room came to me asking about it in standard operating for other regional venues. 30 minutes of calls, and I got a great gauge from 3 different venues and their standard operating procedure and pricing rough-ins. 30 minutes, I got on the phone with 3 of the head people from around the region of the big venues, okay? And the current basically HDD fee structure is designed to drive away traffic and outside renters. The fees priced your local groups out and have a la carte renting the entire facility with legacy equipment. Many of the regional nonprofits and agencies I have worked with for literally 10 to 15 years, I've worked with these agencies, have came to me and have mentioned how bad the pricing structure is compared to everywhere else in the region and why they won't come to an overpriced old venue, okay? At this point, you have the Opera House 2.0 and you have the Star Center V1, which are all operating at a much worse deficit in operational nature than you ever had before. No original programming, tributes that are drawing 300 people. I'm not even going to talk about the comps, okay? It's a joke. Your current director of operations and technical producer, which I'm sorry they're not here today, both held previous positions at a smaller theater that don't even come close to the experience and requirements necessary to run 2 major venues inside of the city. The most tech that I've seen added by the new TD since he was brought in was basically a projector that I don't think is aligned properly, because if you ask me, you shouldn't be getting shot in the face with a projector while you're standing on the stage performing. All right? Sweeney Todd is a show that the city is producing. Why is the city producing shows? We have so many good nonprofits in this town that thrive on this, that live for this, die for this. And now we basically price them out, and the city is producing content, okay? To talk about this more, who is doing the admin for that content? Who is doing the producing, the technical, the sets? If this show flops, who's on the hook for paying for it? Are the taxpayers on the hook for it? So, going into another show that you guys have coming up that just got announced, and when this meeting was off book real quick, I'm almost done. When this meeting was originally announced, I mainly had similar talking points to this. But the reaction to the public outcry about one line in your 5-point plan, which was as easy as just marking it off, right? That much outreach. And what was the Opera House's reaction? Putting up a self-indulgent post, okay, about like how nice the changes are going to be coming down. Rather than being like, hey, we hear you, we're going to acknowledge what's going on, we're going to change what's going on, okay? There's just, it's bad. Back to script, sorry. The Evil Dead show that's coming up, that is produced by your technical director that's from the city. Is he paying a rental fee for the Star Center at rate? Because his company is based in Cecil County. And based on the fee structure you have, he should be paying the ad hoc rate for non-local nonprofits for Harvard, for basically the city, if that's the case. Or is the city basically paying for them to produce the show? I really don't know, because without doing information requests to the city, I have no idea. And I don't want to do those. Like, that's not what I'm here for, okay? As somebody that's been in the entertainment, sorry, I'm getting to the end. Somebody that's been in the entertainment industry for 20 years, I cannot sit by any longer and watch the bad advice from people surrounding the city admin influencing the publicly funded facilities, operations, and booking, with not one person with actual venue experience working at the city currently. Trust me, as a new venue in the region, I completely understand that first impression is everything. And underbooking conventions and bookings not suited to fill a 1K room are crippling to new venue growth and people's return to the space. This will take years to rebuild and brand from, just from what you guys have done so far. Trust me, I know. I've been surviving since 2020, okay? It's going to take a while to rebuild from that first impression that people have had. Because now you got to go back to every one of those nonprofits and go, I'm sorry, here's the new fee structure. Here's the new ways we're doing things. It's going to take years to rebuild from this. The question I have for the council is, where is the oversight? Who is checking to make sure the taxpayer funding is being properly used? How much more money are we going to spend on marketing the Star Center and not the rest of the downtown and the businesses, okay, that are here basically in town and that are paying taxes to be here? Where are the Parks and Rec programming at the Star? That's half of the name, right? I haven't seen publicly a single athletic program put up there. All right? Who's qualified on the theater side for actually advising on the decision-making process and the making of the technical specs that are on that space? Because right now, you have nobody there. I feel there's a lot of public transparency and accountability that the city needs to address to prevent issues and miscommunications in the future. Maybe a city venue board, organization, or committee to oversee this funding. The last thing and I will reiterate this, the last thing we need is another nonprofit group, okay? But there are plenty of great groups that already exist that could manage this kind of flow and this kind of traffic. I'm not suggesting any of them. I'm just saying that there's we need to look into that. Or at least a venue organization board that is overseeing the operations, the city money, all that kind of stuff that's going on. I'm sorry, got off track there. There's plenty of also local technical management partners and great folks that can manage these venues, programming, and decisions way better and more transparent than was currently being done. Thank you for your time, and looking forward to seeing the city and all the venues thriving instead of being separate. 200, 500, 1,000-seater. HDG should be dominating the local entertainment market, but folks are more concerned about basically control and ego over actual positive change. Meanwhile, Cecil County is running wild with entertainment and riverfront development while we are fighting over parking and taking bad advice from underqualified people. Thank you again for your time and working together to build a better, basically community-driven city. We know it really is, and basically we want to show the rest of the world how great it is. I wouldn't have it open to the theater here if I didn't believe in what the city and what all of you guys have been building. I know a lot of you guys have been here since before I came here, and again, I appreciate all the time. And again, thank you guys.
Thank you, sir. We're still on public hearing for ordinance 1114 concerning establishing tax credits for vacant lot conversions to public parking in the downtown business district. I have no more pre-filled out forms on 1114, but is there anybody else in the audience who wishes to speak? Sir. Good evening and welcome, sir. May we please have your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Chuck Hamrick. I actually live at Forest Hill, Maryland, 1801 Bear Creek Drive. I'm here representing Scottfield Theater Company.
Welcome.
We are a nonprofit company. I'm the president currently. Shameless self-promotion, we currently have Matilda the musical. You're all welcome to buy a ticket for next weekend. We are very happy to utilize the Opera House. My reason for being here today was I was concerned about the potential of the visitor center becoming part of the Opera House. I thought it might be beneficial to hear from someone that uses the space on a regular basis, both as the president of Scottfield and as a volunteer for many of the other theater organizations within the area. I have been in that space for multiple uses, concerts, theaters, musicals, plays, you name it. I've volunteered there. I've worked with many of the individuals in the room. My reason for coming here today is I want to paint a very clear picture. That space is, while it is absolutely gorgeous to be in and enjoy a show, if you are producing a show in that space, there are many, many obstacles to creating a great production. And I'm very proud to say that most of the theater groups in the area have come to use that space and understand how to use it and be resourceful. However, if there are any changes made to that building, that is going to go away. Those performances are not going to be as clean. There's not going to, currently for our show that we're doing right now, we have made a conscious decision to not have any set pieces at all. And we are still utilizing the complete dressing room space downstairs as well as the black box for dressing room because we have 27 people in the show and we don't have enough room for any of them. We also have props that we have to manage. They have to be organized and assembled in a way that you can get to them very quickly. There's none of that room upstairs. You have to be a Tetris or Jenga professional to be able to utilize that space backstage. I say that because the current structure and how the pricing for the Opera House is, it seems to have changed over the recent time with the management changing. I was unaware of that until I approached to rent the space for another show. We have been very fortunate to average about 180 for our shows, which is fantastic. We have been financially successful in the space. However, that currently is no longer the case. I have to almost sell out in order to make the money back that we're using to buy the rights and rent the space. I was unaware of those changes happening, and then of course it came to my knowledge once the changes in management were announced. I would like to propose that for any future changes or things of that nature, I don't get the information for these meetings because I'm not a member of the Havre Grace Township. But as a user of the space, I think it would really be important that that information be communicated to us prior. I also think that gentleman announced earlier that they want to promote and get more events into the Opera House space. I would say there are many, many ways to do that. And maybe the first step is to have a public forum or an open forum of the people that currently use the space to understand what ideas they have that might be worth listening to and maybe utilizing as the council to develop programs. I know that the changes to the ordinance are not going to be, I don't know if that's going to change again or if the visitor center is going to move, but I heard one of the concerns in the public work session was having someone answer the phone for the Opera House. I think that's critical, but a phone can ring anywhere and someone can answer it as, thank you for calling the Opera House. It can be in the visitor center for that matter, or maybe management in another building could take on that responsibility. I also had some concerns, and Jared mentioned this, with regards to the city producing a show of its own. I don't understand why that is happening. I would have been happy to consider that project had it been brought to us and split the profits with the city, potentially, but that never happened. And currently the current theater programs in the area, you have Tidewater, which is a fantastic program that has been in existence for 40 plus years. They consider Havre de Grace to be their theater space. I respect that. However, Scottfield came along to do what we thought was appropriate. I have worked with Tidewater. I've volunteered with them. I've been in some shows. But more importantly, I believe community theater is just that, community. And I want to be able to work with everyone. I think bringing a third party or the city into the mix of making their own shows and producing their own shows with a production team that, from what I understand, is not made up of local people. I think one person on that production team is local, but we're bringing in people from outside, supposedly a New York person. I don't know who these people are, and I'm not questioning that. I just don't understand the importance of that. I also would mention, or would like to mention, that currently I received an email today from the manager of the Opera House, Bob Denton, and he was questioning whether or not we were building our sets in the Opera House, which is listed in the contract as not allowable. I have to bring my set pieces in, and then I have to screw them together. There's just I can't bring set pieces in, get them in the elevator, take them upstairs, get them into the Opera House on stage without doing that. And that was questioned. When I got my sets there, I had to make a few cuts because stuff didn't fit where it needed to go. And that I was told I may lose my security deposit. I gotta be honest with you, hearing that, knowing that every time I come into that space, I leave it better than when I came in. And I mean that. That's not just hearsay or talk. I make sure that that is the case. I've had to fix lights while I'm in there because they're buzzing and I can't get an answer from someone. I've had opportunities where I've had, or not opportunities, but unfortunate times when I've had to clean the bathrooms. Now, I know we have a new program where somebody's cleaning, but I can tell you this weekend, we had shows there, and I had to stock one of the bathrooms. And, that shouldn't be happening. And I mean, if I'm going to be paying extra costs, then that's the kind of thing that shouldn't happen. I'll mention one other thing. As a side note, I perform as well across a lot of different places. I'm fortunate to sing with a group called Parkside Harmony and Parkside Melody. It's two groups. We're coming into the Star Center in October to rent that space and perform there. I did a walkthrough this past week as the person on our team that was just sort of feeling it out. I know the Star Center from previous use, and that was back when it was the high school auditorium. I'm familiar with the space, but I wanted to see what I could use, what I couldn't use, where we were going to be able to stage different things. And I was quite surprised that the space, for as quite honestly, it's dilapidated. Curtains are falling apart, and the main curtain, I know they're addressing those issues currently. But one of the sticking points was that I wasn't necessarily going to be able to use any of the rooms behind the stage. Big band room was one room that I could use, which was great. But I have over 200 performers coming in for this show. Actually, I take that back. It's probably 150 performers. And it's different choral ensembles, and we anticipate a professional environment to be able to prepare for our performance. And we're in Havre de Grace because Havre de Grace has a lot to offer, from its tourism and beautiful waterfront and nice restaurants. And, you know, I'm really promoting that. Our group is based out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, but we've chosen Havre de Grace to come down here and have our show. And we're not fighting. I had the discussion and haven't had a chance to talk to Barb and ask her, why can't we use these other spaces? Now, there are some spaces that I think she's okay with us using, but it seems like the fee structure was like, no, you can't have that space unless you pay extra. And I don't quite understand that. I'd like that to be maybe relooked at for future consideration and ordinances that come up. I don't know how to be made aware of that, so I can maybe provide an opinion. Because as someone that uses the space, I think it would be beneficial for the council members and the mayor to hear that from somebody who would be affected by it greatly. I do want to thank you guys for your time. I know you hear a lot of negative and a lot of pushback. I know you put a lot of time into what you do. Mayor Martin, I've seen you at our productions, and I appreciate that. And you've seen what we can do, and I'm hopeful that the other council members maybe have, and I just didn't recognize you. Forgive me if that's the case. But ultimately, the arts community here is very, very strong. And while we might butt heads sometimes because we're all trying to get the best productions and the best titles and things of that nature, ultimately we will work together. But we need to have that venue, and that venue needs to be fully accessible, both downstairs and upstairs. And I'm hoping that that never gets compromised. And I hope that in the event, if we're going to expand in this area, as somebody that lives 30 minutes away, I come a long way because I love it here, and I want to be a part of this community. There will be a time, not too distant future, when I'm hopeful that I'm going to retire into this community. My wife had her way, we'd be doing it right now, but that's just not happening right now. But thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it, and I know there are probably others that want to talk, so I'll concede, and thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, sir. Ordinance 1114, yep. Good evening, former Councilmember Joe Smith. Good to see you, sir. Can we have your name and address for the record?
Sure, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Joseph Smith, 110 Flying Ebony Place.
Welcome.
Havre de Grace, Maryland. So, first of all, I want to preface, I have a statement to read, and I'll preface, because I got here a little bit late. Don and I were just in New York City, and we just drove back and got here about 6:15, so I got here just as it was announced that the section regarding the Opera House was being struck from the ordinance. So I want to say I very much appreciate that, but we think that it was on behalf of the Chamber, and I'm going to be presenting this statement on behalf of the Chamber for the City of Havre de Grace. It's something we had prepared for the last meeting, and obviously we know that that didn't happen, and here we are tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and read this, understanding that we understand now that you've addressed some of our concerns, but we wanted to go on the record with the statement anyway. So, and then if you bear with me, I do have a couple of private comments as myself as a citizen, not representing the Chamber. So this is from the Chamber of Commerce. So, Mayor and Council, citizens, fellow business owners, theater, and art lovers. Today we find ourselves at the intersection of honoring our past and navigating our future. The loss of 70 parking spaces due to the downtown revitalization plans has raised legitimate concerns, and we truly commend the innovative proposal of offering tax credits to private landowners for converting their properties into public parking. This approach exemplifies our city's spirit of collaboration and creativity. However, when it comes to the Opera House, we firmly believe that we need to reassess our priorities. The Opera House, having undergone recent renovations, embodies the cultural heartbeat of our community. It is a focal point for the arts, history, and a shared sense of pride. While we should and do prioritize the needs of our businesses and citizens, we must do so in a manner that doesn't erode the foundations of our cultural heritage. The loss of the Black Box Theater in the Opera House would be more than just a loss of space. It would signify the loss of a venue that fosters creativity, nurtures local talent, and brings economic benefits through its performances and events. We should be wary of trading this intangible yet significant value for a few parking spots. In fact, a newspaper article published around the time of the Opera House reopening highlighted this space as a positive new feature, end quote. Where offices were once located in a gallery, lobby, theatrical dressing rooms, a black box theater and box office, not to mention doors that accommodate hauling in bulky set designs and materials for stage performances or special equipment for lighting, sounds, or exhibits. This was published in the Cecil Whig on August 5th, 2017. Happens to have been written by a former employee of the city and Director of Economic Development, Erica Quisenberry Sturgill, all of you know well. A black box theater, as the name suggests, is a simple, unadorned performance space, typically a square room with black walls and a flat floor. It's starkly different from a conventional proscenium stage, or thrust stage as it's known, both in design and function. But this simplicity is precisely what makes it so valuable. Here's why. Versatility and flexibility. The foremost advantage of a black box is its adaptability. Without a fixed stage or seating, the space can be arranged and rearranged to fit the requirements of any performance. This means that the theater can host theater in the round, traverse staging, thrust staging, or any other setup that the director envisions. Intimacy. Black box theaters, being smaller, foster a close connection between the audience and performers. This intimacy can be a potent tool, particularly for plays or performances that aim to deeply engage or challenge the audience. An experimental playground. The black box is often seen as an experimental space. Without the constraints of a fixed stage or large production values, directors, writers, and performances can take risks, try new ideas, and challenge traditional theater norms. Economic efficiency. Producing a show in a black box theater is typically less expensive than in a main stage production. The reduced cost can be particularly advantageous for emerging artists, small theater companies, or educational institutions to stage productions without a hefty financial burden. Multifunctional. Beyond just performances, the stage can be used for rehearsals, workshops, and theater classes. The multifunctionality can be invaluable, especially for community centers, schools, or smaller theater groups with limited resources. Audience development. For many, an intimate black box performance might be their first theater experience. The informal, intimate setting can be less intimidating and more inviting for those new to theater, helping cultivate a new generation of theater goers. Quick turnaround. With simpler sets and often more contemporary minimalistic productions, black box theaters can have quicker turnarounds between different shows. This allows for a diverse range of performances in a shorter time span, catering to a wider audience range. And complementary to the main stage. While the main stage might host large-scale productions with grand sets and a full cast, the black box can be used for smaller, more experimental plays or performances, as has been mentioned before. It provides variety and a different kind of theater experience, ensuring that a theater complex can cater to a diverse audience tastes and preferences. In essence, while the grandeur of a main stage captures the magic of a traditional theater, a black box complements it by offering an intimate, versatile, and innovative space for both performers and audiences. It is not just additional space. It's an essential one for the holistic development and experience of theater arts. In conclusion, our challenges, though pressing, provide us with an opportunity to innovate. The proposal to convert a part of the Opera House to accommodate a visitor center might offer a short-term solution, but we would argue that we should think broader and longer term. Offering tax incentives for private parking is a progressive step in the right direction. But instead of carving out the heart of our cultural heritage for a permanent visitor center, might we consider, and not everyone may agree with this, but might we consider a dynamic mobile visitor center? This isn't just a novel idea. Cities and counties like Annapolis, Maryland, Bucks County, PA, Kent County, Delaware, and Charlottesville, Virginia have all embraced mobile visitor centers to great effect. These mobile centers have provided flexibility, saved space, and offered a contemporary touch point for visitors, blending history and tradition with modern-day convenience. As we deliberate our next steps, let's draw inspiration from these places, ensuring we're both preserving our cherished spaces and looking ahead to innovative solutions. So our final statement here, and again, we recognize that there has been a change that addresses this. We, the Havre de Grace Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, respectfully ask that the language related to the disposition of the visitor center be removed from this ordinance to be dealt with under a new ordinance after sufficient public input. Thank you, Havre de Grace Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. So that's the statement from the chamber. We wanted to be, we just wanted to be clear and on the record. And again, appreciate the quick response based on what I'm sure was being heard between last week and this week.
While you're speaking on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, does the Chamber of Commerce support the tax credit, yes or no?
Well, I believe yes. The consensus from what we've discussed is, and we haven't voted on it officially, but the consensus was the tax credit. As I think I did state in the first paragraph, we truly commend the innovative proposal of offering tax credits to private landowners for converting their properties to public parking.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, that was in the first paragraph. Right now, and this is on the private side for me as a private citizen. I would question, and again, I think it's all in the sausage making, as we say about legislation. You know, if we have some visibility, and obviously there'll be further discussions and public hearings and so forth about what that tax credit program looks like. As a former councilman, I would ask the same questions if I were on the dais, in terms of what are the economics behind this, and how is it, you know, how much do we gain, how much do we lose, and how is it managed? So those would all be questions that that I would have. In terms of my concerns as an individual, first of all, public involvement. The ordinance seemed, as it was originally written, to prioritize decisions made by the mayor and consultants, whether it's Tool Design or others. While public input was sought for the Havre de Grace Restoration Plan, there was no mention of public input specifically for the 5-point parking plan. Obviously, we had a public working session, but the plan seemed to have been put out there before there was even any preliminary discussion. And so public spaces, especially those involving real estate and historic areas, should incorporate the voice of the community, and it isn't clear whether the majority of residents and businesses approve of the changes, and we've heard some of that tonight. Regarding angled parking, I think that's an interesting and innovative potential solution. Having had a business on that corner and familiar with many of the residents that live on that block, I might have some concerns about putting angled parking in a residential area. So when people are pulling in, depending on which side you're going to do the angled parking, that people pulling in, especially at night, are going to be shining headlights directly into people's living rooms. It's not, I'm trying to think of other towns or areas I've visited that had pull-in parking in residential areas. I would just ask that you consider that and hopefully discuss that with the residents that are on those blocks in particular. I know one side tends to have a little less, and you know, there's someone here who has a business on that side. One side has a little less, more of a business than residential, and then there's the church next door. So that might be more appropriate if you're going to do on one side or the other. Again, I mentioned the tax incentives. I'm concerned about how that all happens. I think it's a good idea. It's just, let's see how it's done. We've already talked about the repurposing of the visitor center. The leasing terms with the private landowners, short-term leases with potential renewals might not guarantee long-term parking solutions. Landowners might change their minds after the lease expires, forcing the city to scramble for alternative parking options. So it's a creative, maybe short-term solution. And then the environmental and aesthetic concerns. If you're going to turn the visitor center into a larger parking lot, there are instances where putting too much parking in it, and people are going to say, well, wait, don't you want more parking? Yes, appropriate parking in appropriate spaces. And if it's dressed up or landscaped or made to look appropriate, then it won't look like an empty hole in the middle of the block. And again, how would we don't have a lot of information about how the ordinance would be enforced in terms of the public space and the safety and the improvement. And also, I'm a little concerned about what authority does the mayor have in terms of, I mean, is there any control or any guidance on how these leases are done, and is there any transparency or visibility to how those leases are set up? So those are some of my concerns as a private citizen. I also wanted to just address, in closing, a lot of discussion has happened tonight about communication and transparency. There's a lot of frustration in the community. As you know, I was the founding president of the Havre Grace Alliance, which was, I thought, grown and built into a fairly successful organization. I recall my former colleague, Mr. Glenn, was a member of that board, and in one of his last meetings that he attended, when we met as a board, was very complimentary and gave high praise to the organization. And the reason why he did was because he said that the first time that he had remembered in a long time of getting all the stakeholders to the table and having discussions. And Mr. Mayor, I know we had those conversations in the mayor's office about when we formed the alliance, that was the purpose, was to bring representatives from the stakeholders so they could have a forum and have discussion. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, decisions were made in the name of efficiency, I guess, to try to get the alliance into the chamber, and you know, I've gone along with that, but I personally thought it was not the greatest idea, because a chamber represents its membership, not the community. The alliance was set up to represent the community, and so they have different purposes. Now, we can make things work, but my concern is that we've lost that communication venue that we had before, and nothing to replace it. So what you were trying to do, you've done the opposite in terms of breaking down communication channels. They're gone. And that's where you're hearing all this frustration tonight. And finally, I don't mean to call out any individuals, because I think it's more of an administration question and management question than people executing their jobs. I'm very concerned that the Main Street program, which would address, again, some of these issues with parking and a lot of other things, the Main Street program has basically disappeared. It works on paper. You're filling the paperwork out. The cities or the state seems to be happy with that, but there is no engagement with the community. And if you look at the tenets of the Main Street programs, they involve communication and they involve participation from local merchants and community owners. And I understand that and I've met the new part-time Main Street manager, and I look forward to having her at the merchant meetings and engaging and hopefully rebuilding what we had before. But I think that also, so between what's happened with the alliance and the lack of bringing the stakeholders together and the lack of an active, viable Main Street program, we've lost a lot of the gains that we had made in the past. So that's my personal opinion, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. We're on public hearing of ordinance 1114 concerning establishing tax credits for vacant lot conversions to public parking in a downtown business district. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on ordinance 1114? Any comments from the council on ordinance 1114? Okay, without any further comment, I now close public hearing on ordinance 1114. The time is 8:13. We will move into our last public hearing on ordinance 1115 concerning changing the traffic pattern on Erie Street. This will be an ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, and sections 33, 34, 65, and 66 of the Havre de Grace City Charter to change the traffic pattern on Erie Street. Ooh, hold on. Anyone in the audience tonight here to speak on the matter of ordinance 1115? Any comments from the council? Councilmember Boyer?
Mayor, I just want to let everybody know that so far, the change to the traffic pattern has been extremely beneficial to the residents of the street. They are ecstatic about it, and you know, even though they're not here in support of it, they are absolutely in support of it. I've walked around several times talking to them, and they're very happy with the way things are, and they want to just keep it as we have it currently. It's been a long time coming to try to solve this problem. I don't necessarily think we've completely solved the problem. I think it's part of a larger problem that stems from the intersection at Route 40. And as we try to get more funding and try to get more state eyes on that intersection, we might have to, at some point, revisit all of the streets that intersect Route 40. But the citizens are very happy with it. And as soon as we can make it into a permanent law, I believe it's in our best interest to do so. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyer. Thank you very much. Council President.
Because the mayor's declaration of emergency is expiring, state of emergency, prior to the second reading next week, I will be making a motion during the meeting to extend the state of emergency for that 1 week. Technically, we'll extend it for 30 days, but barring any unforeseen circumstances, we hope to have that completely passed at the next meeting.
I'm sorry? Did you like to, do you want to speak? Yes, ma'am.
There we go.
All right, we have a speaker. Good evening and welcome. May you please have your name and address for the record.
I'm Agnes Miner, and I live at 835 Erie Street.
Welcome, Ms. Miner.
Thank you. I think Ms. Boyer pretty much said how the residents feel on Erie Street. I really didn't come to speak. I just wanted to observe, but we are ecstatic. Life is wonderful on the 800 block of Erie Street. I feel so much safer. My car is happy. So I just hope that everything goes well and that we can leave that street as it is, one way. I think it's safer for everyone concerned. And I want to just personally thank all of you for your support. It's been a long time coming, and again, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miner. Pretty soon we'll see tumbleweed coming down Erie Street. Thank you. Any other comments from the council on ordinance 1115? No? Okay. All right, 1115 is now, public hearing on 1115 is now going to be closed. The time is 8:17. Okay, that closes public hearing on 3 ordinances. That will be ordinance 1113, ordinance 1114, ordinance 1115 that we just had our public hearings on will be on the agenda next Monday night, which is a regularly scheduled council meeting for second reading and adoption. So we are about to start a council meeting. But I tell you what, I just had 2 big drinks before the meeting started. I have to use the restroom. And I'm the one that runs the meeting, so I don't know what else to say. These guys can just get off and go to the bathroom. So let's call a 5-minute recess, and then we're rolling to the council meeting, all right? Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The date is August 14, 2023. The time is 8:29 p.m. We're going to start a city council meeting that was held over, basically it's a modified meeting left over from August 7th, which was suspended due to the severe threat of severe weather. This is a modified meeting that it's basically we had a few public hearings on some ordinances, as well as we're going to do a resolution and an ordinance this evening that we wanted to keep on legislative track. We will be having our regular council meeting next Monday, which is August 21st. So in case you're flipping around YouTube and you see a weird council meeting pop up that says August 14th, and you say to yourself, I thought it was the first and third Monday. I mean, I'm just letting you know this is a modified meeting to keep some legislative items on track, as well as an important presentation this evening that we wanted the public to be aware of. So, with that said, I will call the roll. Let's see here. Let me find your guys' names. Council President?
Here.
Councilmember Robertson?
Here.
Councilmember Jones? Absent. Councilmember Boyer?
Here.
Councilmember Schnegas is absent. And Councilmember Boger?
Here.
Okay. We have a quorum. We have 4 council members. Can everyone please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and an opening prayer? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If I could kindly ask everyone to remain standing, as I would like to call forward Robin Stokes. Is she in the audience tonight? No, I didn't see her. Okay, I'd like to call forward Reverend Ringsager.
We got any other volunteers? All right, let's pray. Supreme Architect of the universe, we invoke thy blessing at this time. May this meeting thus begun in order be conducted in peace and close in harmony. Amen.
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 Thank you, Council President.
Yes. There's a spider web here.
So motivated.
Yes. If a spider pops down while we're doing that, I will.
Item
scream.
number 5 is the approval of the council meeting minutes of July 17th, 2023. Council have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Council President, seconded by Councilmember Boyer. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. City Council meeting minutes of July 17, 2023 are approved for 4-0 in the affirmative. We're going to go to item number 6, comments from citizens. This is the point of the council meeting that if you're here to speak on an agenda item, now's the time to do so. If you're also here to speak on any other matter of city business, now's the time to do so also. And just like I did under the public hearing on the ordinances, if anyone pre-filled out a form online, I'll call those citizens first. And when I'm done that, I'll just call on anyone at large who wishes to speak. I do have a couple forms, so I'll just call them randomly as the order in which I received them. Ms. Julie Runke. Good evening, Ms. Runke. May we please have your name and address for the record?
Julie Runke, 311D Redhead Way, Havre.
Welcome. I'm doing good, thank you.
And I'm here to talk today about the kayak poker run, which is this Saturday morning. It is Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. This event is sponsored by the Hartford Land Trust, the Ben Boniface Foundation, also the Havre de Grace Chamber of Commerce, and the American Legion Post 47. So it's a real partnership to pull this together. And it really was an opportunity to show off all the work we've done on our living shores and on the Water Street and the new boat ramp and kayak ramps. So we all came together to show off all the great things that Havre de Grace Water has to offer. A kayak poker run is a 3-mile route with 6 stops. You stop at each stop and pick up a card, get your poker hand. At the end, you go to the American Legion, we have a luncheon, and you get prizes based on your poker hand. We're expecting 90 to 100 boats out there. There is still room to register. You can go to hartfordlandtrust.com and register, order your boat, and also order your lunch. And there are kayak rentals available if you need that. So I just want to let you know that that is happening. Also, for the people who watch on TV, if you are a boater and you're coming out of the various marinas, please beware. You're going to have 100 kayakers floating around out there, and please beware of them. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ruhnke. Okay, next speaker, I hope I get the last name correctly, Adrian Kloss. Oh, thank you, great. Good evening, sir, and welcome. Can we have your name and address for the record?
Adrian Kloss, 217B Seneca Way.
Wonderful, welcome.
Have a grace. So I just want to let you know, on last Monday, I had to sign for a certified letter that I have 2 weeks to respond to. So on August 7th, I signed for the certified letter from E.J. Millisor, Director of Public Works, informing me that they received federal funding to design, permit, construct, and a transient pier into the Susquehanna River. This package included drawings and permit as submitted to the Maryland Department of Environment for a 100-foot long, 10-foot wide pier with concrete access. I just want to come here to get on record to let you know that we are against this project in its entirety. We reside in the first unit adjacent to Green Street in Seneca Way. We believe this project will negatively impact the natural aesthetics of our environment in addition to the natural resources that may be endangered by this project. And I'm not going to take the time to go through all of these at this point. Because the proposed pier is in direct line with our waterfront unit, we're concerned with the quality of our life and the imminent threat to the value of our property. This transient dock is inconsistent with the city's comprehensive plan, which we have looked at, for the end of Green Street. There's a significant difference between a small observation deck, as shown on the city plan, versus a 100-foot long, lighted, transient boat pier that is being proposed here. Because of the direct impact of this project to our daily lives, we request to be informed of this project status in critical areas that are regulated by the Federal Corps of Engineers, Department of the Environment, the Department of Natural Resources, and I'd also like to see a copy of the survey that was done by your engineers when they were out in the kayak poking a stick into the water to see how deep it is. So I have another week to respond to this, and I just want to add in addition, I just want to inform you all that moving forward, I'm going to be represented by Joseph Sneed Jr., attorney at law, in matters regarding this transient dock. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call forward Mr. Jim McFarland.
Hello, I'm Jim McFarland, 618 Lewis Street, Havre, Grace, Maryland.
Welcome.
Thank you. I am here speaking in favor this evening of Resolution A, which will approve the contract for the sculpture Samara in North Park. I'm a member of the Havre Grace Arts Collective Public Art Committee and have been leading the Public Art Committee's effort to develop a sculpture trail through the city. I would like to thank Mayor Martin, the City Council, Mr. Gamatoria, and the Department of Administration, and the Department of Public Works for the continued support of public art in Havre Grace. I came before the council in February to call attention to the grant we received from the Lower Susquehanna Heritage Greenway to support research and a public input session for the sculpture trail, and the planning grant we received from the Maryland State Arts Council Public Art Across Maryland program, which funded the call for entries for a permanent sculpture in North Park. as well as the semifinalist models that were on display at Gallery 220 in March and April. The Arts Collective received a Maryland State Arts Council Public Art Across Maryland Project grant in June to fund the creation and installation of the sculpture chosen after the review of the semifinalist models. It is important to note that the executive director and the board of the Susquehanna Museum at the Lock House support the installation of Samara in North Park, and the Maryland Historic Trust has approved the site selected for the sculpture. All of us who have been involved in the process to select Samara as the next piece of public sculpture in Havre de Grace are excited to see this project continue to move forward. Samara will be a kinetic sculpture that will respond to the breezes in North Park. It will be approximately 12 feet tall and is based on the seed pods of the maple tree. Samara will be the anchor sculpture at the north end of our sculpture trail. The Ernest Burke sculpture in Tidings Park anchors the south end of the trail. We believe that Samara will get the same kind of positive response in North Park as Big Fish School of Fish and the Birds of the Chesapeake have gotten in Concord Point Park. If I can answer any questions or be of any assistance, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for Jim? Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for supporting the public art.
You bet, Jim. Yes, ma'am. What can I do for you?
I had a comment to make in regards to what Adrian.
Sure. Well, we're still under public comment, so if you want to be the next speaker, you can. Come on up.
Okay.
Yeah, under public comments, you can speak about agenda items or any other matter of city business. Yours is another matter of city business, but you're welcome to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Just all it just need is your name and address, and then say what you want.
Okay, it's Debbie Quinn, 217A, Seneca Way, in Havre de Grace.
Welcome. First council meeting?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, what do you
Yeah.
think so far? They're not always this long.
No, that's okay. I'm learning. I'm learning a lot, and I like the opportunity to be able to express the frustration that Adrian was just brought up and speaking about. 8 years ago, my dad brought my sister and I down to the end of Green Street and showed us this condo. He couldn't get out. He was 91. And he passed away a week later. And he informed my sister and I that he was giving us this condo, which is right under Adrian and Helene. And he said he picked it out because of the beauty and the nature of being able to watch the wildlife. We used to go to the shore in New Jersey, but cost-wise, we were able to come down here and be able to watch the waterfowl. Some people, that doesn't matter to some people, but it mattered a lot to us, and it mattered a lot to our dad. And we want to be able to, I don't know if conserve is the right word, but that little cove has so many different types of waterfowl at different times of the year. And I'm losing my train of thought because I'm nervous.
Take your time. You're doing a great job.
Thanks. So when we found out that, it was Monday, that we would have 2 weeks to respond to this certified letter in regards to putting a pier in down there, it was like a punch in the stomach. We watched this group, and it was just mentioned. I wrote it down and didn't bring it up to remind myself what it was, but the group that would come along the shore to beautify the shore, one of the speakers previous to me mentioned it, how they beautify the edge, and by beautify, they mean they put in mulch and rocks and plants to keep the soil from eroding. The cove itself is only, and I can tell you this for a fact because I rolled into the I rolled into the Susquehanna River off the cove of the rocky shoreline, and it's only about 2 feet deep at low tide, and we've seen people have to get rescued from falling out of a kayak because it's like mud, or like quicksand, only quick mud. And the more they tried to get out, the deeper they went. So the other thing I didn't understand was, why was this certified letter only sent to the 2 units on the end and not all of Seneca Point community? Because there are more people on that cove than just Adrian and his wife and my sister and I. I would think that somebody who was in the business of putting a pier in would know that it would be more than just the 2 people on the end. So we want to do our best to preserve that, and that's just what I want to say.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Absolutely. We're still under item 6, comments from citizens. Does anybody here wish to speak on any agenda item or any business of the city? Any comments from the council? Okay, we will move to item 7, appointments. And this evening we have no appointments. Item 8, recognitions, we have none. Number 9, proclamations, we have none. And it takes us to presentations, which we have a great presentation. Well, we have 2 tonight, but the first one's going to be a very good one. I've been looking forward to hearing it. And I'd like to invite the representatives of Think Big Networks to do their presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Martin and council members and the members of the Havre de Grace community. My name is Deanna Subzak, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Think Big Networks. We're an internet service provider, and we're local here. We're based in Maryland. I'm here tonight with 2 of my colleagues, Mark Wagner, our Chief of Partnerships and also a co-founder, and Craig Midlang, our VP of Systems and Engineering. Earlier this year, we were going through our expansion plans for this year, and we came across the fact that Havre de Grace does not have a fiber optic network. To say we were shocked is an understatement. I don't know what everyone knows about the difference between fiber optics and cable, but fiber optics is a far superior product. It's very similar to Verizon Fios. It is the same thing as Verizon Fios. It actually the speed and reliability with fiber optics versus cable, it's not comparable. Cable can get some good download speeds, but they don't have the ability to have great upload speeds. Anybody that survived and had to work from home during COVID probably had those problems with Zoom or Teams where you had to turn your camera off in order to stay in tune, stay in a meeting. And fiber optics is a game changer. We were very pleased to hear that you were going through a revitalization of your town, and what immediately came to mind is that there's no way that you would have a 100% revitalization unless you went ahead and you looked at installing a fiber optic network throughout the town. So obviously we reached out to the town, and we are excited to talk about bringing Havre de Grace and making Havre de Grace a smart city. I don't know. I think most people, when you think about what is a smart city, we actually don't even know what a smart city is yet. We know that, currently you can do things with cameras, you can have safety features, you can have water monitoring, you can have public Wi-Fi spots. But, having the ability to be future-proofed and have to become a smart city over the course of time. Technology changes, weekly, monthly, annually. So, we don't even know what the benefits are going to be to the town yet, becoming a smart city. But we know that, with our fiber optic network, we can make you a smart city. From a standpoint of a homeowner, any homeowner that, if they want a smart house or they want to have cameras, they want to have, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm right with my slides. They want to have, cameras, Wi-Fi all throughout their home, ability to use their cell phones on Wi-Fi calling. They have that opportunity with broadband. As I said, Think Big Networks resides in Maryland. We started in Kent County, Maryland. Over the course of time, we created a partnership in Charles County, and we're building a fiber optic backbone there. And then we actually became, in 2020 and 2021, we became Harford County's rural broadband partner. So we're currently working in the northwest and the northern eastern part of the county, bringing fiber optics to unserved and underserved the rural community. And it's kind of ironic that out in the rural area of now in Harford County, they have better speeds of service than you do here in Havre Grace. So we've been in business since 2016. And, we are looking at expanding. We're also in Queen Anne's County and, as I said, Charles County. We do all of our engineering and design in-house. We have an excellent executive team, and everyone is located in Maryland. We have a Harford County office already. We have an office in Forest Hill. We will be opening an office in Havre Grace to be local, so that way people can come in and talk to us about broadband services and just understanding what it means to them and for their use. We also have a great business package, so we will help with the town of Havre Grace bringing more economic development to the town because of being able to offer high-speed internet services. We also will have a local tech support, and we do sub out all of our construction, and I have our VP of Systems and Engineering here tonight to talk about the construction of the network that we'll be doing. So if you want to come up and start to talk about that.
It's all good.
Delay. What's that?
It's all good.
Yeah.
So some of the technologies and the products that we'd offer are the most current products, but to get those products to work, we have to first build a complete infrastructure. There is nothing that's currently in the ground that can be converted to fiber optics. We have a pretty significant infrastructure project that we would have to do in order to move this project forward with your approval. First of all, the team that would be performing this work are all Maryland-based. The subcontractors that we've used extensively in Maryland are from Maryland. We have an engineering team that's based in Maryland, which means we have a lot of partnerships with other entities within the state that'll be necessary for this project to move along successfully. The key points of this kind of an infrastructure build is utility coordination. Currently, there are absolute plans to build this underground. We feel that an underground-based network, even if there are poles in the right-of-way, is far more reliable, and it improves the quality of the streetscape as you look down the road. But our number one goal here is to build a network that's extremely reliable, resilient against storms, hurricanes, tree limbs coming down, cars driving off the side of the road into poles. That's the hallmark of the networks we build, is reliability. We do the utility coordination becomes the first visible sign of our construction. There'll be locate flags, some paint put down by other entities to ensure that we don't damage them. It's very important to us that we don't damage other utilities during the construction process because we don't want to put somebody out of service, then turn around and try to convince them to become one of our customers. So we do very careful utility coordination. Then we'll do duct installation. Typically, what we'll be placing is 1.5 or 2 inch as the largest sizes of high-density polyethylene. It's a very resilient, non-metallic material. Along with the fiber optic cable, the materials we use have an extremely long lifetime compared to the current communication networks in the city. There's no metal involved. There's nothing to corrode. There's nothing to decay. There's no aluminum outside tube to crack. That's what makes fiber optic networks as reliable as they are. We'll place the duct in the right-of-way using directional boring. We will do minimal open trenching. Generally, we only will open up holes in the ground to ensure if we're crossing another utility that we don't damage them. But a majority of the duct placement will be done through directional boring, which will minimize the amount of restoration that we'll have to do, disturbing as little grass as possible. But the placement of this duct is in the right-of-way. Generally, in most of the town, it will be between the curb and the sidewalk. It won't be inside the sidewalk. And the duct will be connecting flush mount vaults, not pedestals. The other utilities have above ground structures. You've probably noticed some rust. Some of them aren't closed properly. When you look down the street, you won't see Think Big's network because we'll be flush with the ground. Again, improving the streetscape. And then finally, we'll be pulling long reels of fiber optic cable through those ducts. There's a need to make these cables contiguous, so there's a bit of a build, pulling them through thousands of feet at a time. Then we'll proceed to splicing. Then we'll be able to proceed to activation. Once we've activated the plant or lit the fiber optics, we can then start to connect subscribers through a process known as placing a drop. The drop is the part of the network that goes from the right-of-way into the home, and we don't do that until we actually have a customer agreement. You're probably wondering, what does this project look like across the city? We have a preliminary design plan. It's necessary for us to reach a gateway to the outside world, and for us, that's our partnership with the fiber network that Havre County currently operates. They have fiber available for us to use in the northwest corner, which is the blue zone. From that direction, we'll place a point of presence cabinet and spread out eastward and southward, spreading out through the city in a contiguous fashion. Now, we have some other right-of-ways. The city doesn't control all of the right-of-ways we need to cross. We have to get right-of-way permits with the State Highway Administration, the railroads. So there can be parts of the city that may turn on earlier than others. But over time, as we believe this project will be successful and the demand that we've heard from the citizens comes from across the city, we believe that the project plan, which shows our first customers being able to be serviced near the end of this year, and service availability generally available across the city within 3. So thank you for your consideration. Deanna, do you want to?
Yes, thank you very much for allowing us to come here tonight, and we look forward to having further discussions with you, concerning our MOU. You have any questions?
Yes. Any question from the council? Councilmember Boyer?
So when you when you go into the right-of-ways and use the flush-mounted systems, I'm assuming that there's like there's a mathematical equation of where it has to be, and if there is say a garden or a hedgerow,
We work with homeowners. Yes.
What's your process? How do you communicate to the landowner, or like I get it, the city's the landowner, but how do you communicate to the resident there that, hey, we're going to be putting this right here. We notice it's in the middle of your iris garden.
So we actually, number one, we will put out pre-construction door hangers as long as there's not a problem with the town for us to do that. But we would put out a pre-construction door hanger letting everyone know that we are coming in, what to expect from a construction standpoint, and also giving them our contact information if they want to contact us. And we've had that many times where people call and say, look, I'm a little worried about this tree. Are you going to do something? We will meet with the homeowners. Our contractors will meet with the homeowners and one of our installers, and make sure that a hand box, if it's going in, that it would be put in a place that is not a detriment. We certainly aren't going to pull out people's flowers and put a hand box in. And then they will also see that the contractor will go out and mark where the hand boxes are going. So they'll also have another opportunity to call us to say, hey, I'm worried about the placement of this. We also do 100% restoration work. So if there's anything that is, we'll leave it the way that we found it. And if anyone's unhappy with anything, we will go back and restore it back to a condition that is suitable for them.
Okay, great, thank you. And I'm super looking forward to this. I am one of those parents who, during COVID, had to sit outside of the library in order to download this application that my daughter had to have. So I really
and it's hard to
appreciate it.
believe. I mean, here in the town that you don't have that. So we really are excited. We've made great progress in the rural areas, bringing people online and, allowing them to not have to do a drive into a town in order to get to internet access. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyer. Any other questions from the council? Councilmember Boger?
Yeah, just real quick, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for that. So I kind of campaigned on better communication infrastructure, and I can tell you right now, as a former Bell South technician, working with Plano Telephone Service and coax, that fiber is definitely the way to go. I've been excited about this ever since the Director of Administration, Mr. Gamatori, brought this to my attention. Been on Cloud 9 ever since. I'll be your pilot program, I'm telling you right now. So the direction is up. Miss Deanna?
Deanna, yes.
And I very much appreciate the presentation. And as far as this council person is concerned, I welcome this with open arms.
Great, thank you very much. We're very excited about the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councilmember Boger. Any other comments from the council or questions? Council President?
So I'm just super impressed. Like, I'm looking at your website, and it says you can download 25 songs to your playlist in 1 second.
Yeah, so our speed...
My kids are going to love that, I'm just going to say.
We will be offering multiple packages, but they will have symmetrical speeds. But, at this point in time, right now, the highest package that we're offering is 1,000 megabits per second. So that means every second you get an additional 1,000 megabits per second, both up and down. When you look at traditional cable, usually the uploads... Cable was originally formed to be brought into your home, not for you to upload stuff to the cloud. And now the technology has changed so much and we're doing things differently. Having those symmetrical speeds really makes a difference.
So do you have price points, like ideas?
We do. So we are going to roll out from the beginning with 2 different packages. For 400 megabits per second up and down, it will be, I want to make sure I'm right, $80. And for gig speed, which is 1,000 megabits per second, it would be $95 a month with no rental fees. For internet, it is what it is. There's no taxes. Your bill would either be $80 or $95. We also offer VoIP telephone services, and at this point in time, we are offering those packages for $20 plus all the taxes that go along with having telephone. So.
I think with telephones, we're still paying a tax on the Spanish-American War? And I'm not making this up.
Yeah, so we're...
I'm not making this up. There's still recoupment costs for the Spanish-American War that's tacked onto your phone bill.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have any control over those taxes. So.
No, I'm excited because literally I'm cutting the cable because it's so expensive with my current provider. We can't get Fios in here to spend any money around here, and just was so excited about this because I'm not joking. My bill was $408 last month, wow. And that's for internet, for our cable package, home phone, and for the alarm system. I can tie the alarm system into my internet and just get down to the internet and just stream other stuff and cut my bill by a quarter or down to a quarter of that. It's an amazing idea. I love it, and I know you're starting up by the number 5 Firehouse, correct?
Yes.
And that's right in my neighborhood.
Great, that's awesome. Yeah, and you never have to bring up the word Fios again because all you have to do is say, think big.
Yeah. No, we're thinking big.
We're thinking big. No more comments? Okay. Listen, thank you for your patience. Thanks for coming out tonight to present this to our citizens. And, it's in the city of Havre de Grace, ever since I've been on council in 2008, there's been this big conspiracy that the city has some sweetheart deal with Comcast. And we won't let anybody into the city. And let me tell you, well, yours is what, 405? Mine's 385 a month, Comcast. I mean, so like, we're begging people to come in and give some kind of competition or some kind of better financial structure of what people basically need to get. And even though we're a historic city, we also want to be a 21st century city.
Exactly.
And your first comments hit the nail on the head. You know, we're working on this revitalization project downtown, and the true revitalization would be also to bring our infrastructure in all aspects up to par to the modern times. So it sounds like you're ready to roll. I mean,
We are ready to roll. So we need an MOU and a permit.
absolutely,
And then-
absolutely. Well, listen, thank you again for
Thank
coming
you.
out tonight. Thank you again for working, and I want to thank my director of administration for being the liaison between your company and the council. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve and April. Have a good night, everyone.
Betcha.
$95 for gig speed?
And our next presentation is going to be from Councilmember Boyer regarding the truck traffic work group report.
Now, I know for sure that nobody really is excited about truck traffic as much as they are about having cable options other than what we currently have. Because it's something that, I don't know, I think every year it's come up repeatedly that your city council is preventing it from happening, but it's not happening. But, so the truck traffic work group. Is there a? Sure. Trusting at the slides. See, people are leaving already. It's that exciting. So, in October of 2022, the mayor and city council passed a resolution establishing the truck traffic work group. Myself as the council chair, we had former council president Dave Glenn, we had Captain Joel Olton, our public works director, E.G. Meisler, Paul Ishak, who was representing the Street and Traffic Safety Commission. And then we had an industry representative, and this person was so invaluable. He was just absolutely unbelievable and extremely helpful to us, Louis Campion. So this is just basically our purpose. The legislature, the state legislature had passed a law allowing Harford County to enforce truck routes through a vehicle height monitoring enforcement system. But in order to do it, the municipality or the Harford County had to go through certain steps in order to be able to do it or not. And we were entering into this, trying to consider this for our city as an option to help Erie Street and a couple other locations throughout the town. So the purpose is, mirrors that legislation. Our approach was that we held a series of meetings on Zoom. We started with the work already completed by Baltimore City and Baltimore County. We reviewed our current signage within the city, and that was eye-opening. Discussed where the problem areas are, discussed enforcement statistics and challenges, and from that we developed a map with sign locations, a draft ordinance, and some communication that we would like to recommend. So starting with the truck routes, the work group recommends prohibiting truck traffic except for local deliveries on the following roads: Canvasback Drive, Tidings Road, Seagull Drive, Chapel Road / Ontario between Mount Pleasant and Route 40, Ontario east of 40, Erie between Juniata and Route 40, Lewis Lane, Bay Boulevard, and Parkway Avenue. Many of these are already identified, but we, again, want to codify it and make it more clear that those are areas where trucks really should not be unless it's a local delivery. So we created this map, and at first it might seem a little bit counterintuitive, but again, I know we're using Baltimore City and Baltimore County as our guide, and this is the way that they came up with the colors. The blue routes recognize locations where trucks over 5 tons are prohibited on the streets. It'll require proper signage and it would be designated within the GIS system. The red routes are where trucks are allowed to drive and are encouraged to divert off only for local deliveries, and this too will be designated in GIS. For those looking for a larger version of this map, which is here in your packet, it's available to you so you can see it a little bit easier. It's Appendix 2. We came up with several recommendations. The first is to adopt the map via ordinance. We have identified a draft ordinance in Appendix 3 of your packets. Our second recommendation is to use standard signage throughout the city of Havre de Grace. When we looked, there was a hodgepodge of different signs. Some signs had been there so long they were completely faded by the sun. Again, we reached to our industry representative saying, okay, what is the standard sign that should be used? And what you see there on the slide, the truck with the slash through it, and then under it, most important is that no trucks over the 5-ton GVWR are, and then the street specific to it. That is what we should have consistent throughout our community, and we don't have it currently. We will need to work with State Highway in some locations to make sure that that's standard. I think in the State Highway locations, it pretty much is. It's really on the city side that we're going to need to make a couple of those changes. This is in full compliance with the Maryland Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Device Listings, and the locations for the signage are listed on spreadsheet on Appendix 4. That said, this work group did not take into consideration Erie Street being officially one way, so that location will have to be changed on it. But that's the only change. Recommendation number 3. Do not use signage for truck routes. We were considering it, if we're going to identify all these truck routes throughout our community, shouldn't we put signage on it? And then we started thinking that would be even more signs than we already have on our streets that nobody reads as it is. So it really is going to be counterintuitive. We believe the use of the GIS systems, especially for the larger truck companies, they're going to be using that anyway, and that will take care of that issue. It's not going to provide any real value. Number 4, we spent a lot of time discussing this because, again, it was the whole purpose of this work group was enforcement. At this time, the work group does not advise the use of the camera enforcement due to the extensive resources required for it. The cost for a single unit is over $4,000, and the thought is that over time, as people comply with the rules, the amount of money coming in to pay for the unit is going to decrease, making the $4,000 a month a bit of a hefty fee for where we're really trying to get it at. There was a lot of discussion about it, and they believe that the committee believes greater enforcement with police citations is in order, and the use of the GIS as well as the signage should help communicate it clearly. Again, our industry representative was very emphatic, saying, truckers don't want to be on small streets. They really don't. And when they get stuck on them, they're not happy either. So as much as we can do to have the proper signage in the proper locations and use GIS, it's better for everybody. But the committee does recommend after a year, if the problems continue, to reconstitute the work group and re-examine steps. Maybe the costs of the equipment will be reduced, or maybe Harford County will already have implemented theirs and we could tail into their program as well. Recommendation number 5, again, it's the Erie Street solution, which we are currently doing. The committee discussed it at great length, identifying that a permanent solution needed to be created in order to prevent the through use of the trucks. and that various options should be considered. So I believe we as a council have already taken efforts to move forward on that one. And number 6 is outreach, to provide local stakeholder businesses with a draft note that they can provide to delivery companies, explaining the new designated truck routes and the penalties associated with driving on them. I know Lewis, in front of the high school/middle school, is one of those locations where we're seeing more truck traffic going on that one. So identifying where they're delivering to and making sure that the draft gets out to those drivers. Again, the industry associations have said that they will also help communicate it, and the use of GPS and GIS information is imperative on that. And with that, that is the end of our presentation. Just want to make sure that you all know that the resolution is in the appendix, as well as the map and sign locations in there as well. If we did come up with a draft for communication, but we decided not to put it in the package. If it's something that the administration would like, we'd be happy to share it with you all. And it was a great opportunity, a great group of people working together, very solutions-oriented, and I truly enjoyed chairing this work group because I honestly feel like we got something accomplished. So I thank you all very much for this opportunity. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain them.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyer. How many meetings did you all have? I mean, it's a good report. I was just wondering how many meetings it took to dope that all out.
I would say we probably did it in like 7 or 8 meetings, would you say, Adam? Adam was great helping us.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. And everybody kind of chipped in, going around, getting a lot of the information. To say that it was, everybody received tasks and worked out on the tasks too. So that was, again, I really felt like we actually got our hands dirty and got it all done and worked very well together as a group.
Yeah, you had a good team. Council President?
I want everybody to know that, we're not up here just for this. The time and effort she puts in on this and put on this, it's astounding because not only is she on commissions and committees and volunteer groups and everything else, but to do 7 extra meetings for a work group, I mean, that's astounding. And dedication and the information you gave back to us is very useful, and hopefully we can move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Boger?
Yeah, just real quick, if I may, Mayor Martin. So congratulations to the team. That's a lot of work. So I learned some new stuff today. I learned that GIS is graphic information systems, mapping, yada, yada. Got that also from CP Greensacker. So learning that. And so the signage being the same throughout from A to Z, I think that's paramount. We do get a lot of the visual overload at times, and if that's a standard, like you've done your homework, obviously, if that's a standard, then that's a standard we should bring forward into Havre de Grace as well. So some hats off to you and the team, obviously, Mr. Adam as well. Thank you, sir. There are some streets that we do not want to disturb the peace and harmony, especially on the 40 East, Ontario, seeing some of those big trucks come down there. There's other avenues of approach, and I'm sure you've discovered those.
Right.
And
It was a
appreciate
big discussion, quite frankly, Lewis
Yeah.
as well. Erie was a big discussion, Lewis was a discussion as well. And then the industry rep also said, tractor trailers don't want to go in front of schools where kids are running outside. They don't want to do it. So helping them with signage ahead of time kind of keeps them off those streets.
Absolutely. So I appreciate that, the level of effort, level of detail. So back to you, Mayor Martin. Thank you.
And I believe in order for us to get this into the GIS software system, we have to vote on the map acknowledging the streets. So just so you all know that that's part of what the ordinance is.
Thank you, Councilmember Boger. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Boger,
Thank you.
Councilmember Boyer, thank you very much. Well done. We're going to go to item 11, resolutions. We have a calendar resolution concerning authorizing an agreement with the Havre de Grace Arts Collective for a piece of public art. And the The liaison would be Councilmember Jones, but she's not here this evening. So, Council President, I was wondering if you could just read the introduction for us.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I move to introduce a calendar resolution concerning authorizing an agreement with Havre Grace Arts Collective for a piece of public art.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by the Council President and seconded by Councilmember Boyer. This is a motion to introduce a calendar resolution. Questions or comments on the introduction? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce a calendar resolution concerning authorizing an agreement with Havre Grace Arts Collective for a piece of public art carries 4-0 in the affirmative. This is going to be resolution. I didn't write the number down. Adam, do you have the number down for this resolution by any chance?
2023-14.
Be right with you.
Is it 16? No, we're getting up there. We should be on the ordinance itself.
Dash 12. All right. Very good. This is going to be Calendar Resolution 2023-12. A resolution by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, pursuant to the local government article of the Annotated Code of Maryland and sections 33 and 34 of the City Charter for authorizing the execution of an agreement for the installation, maintenance, and ownership of a piece of public art. Council, I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-12.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Boker, and second by Councilmember Boyer. Questions or comments? Council President?
All right, so this is an agreement with the Arts Collective for a piece of public art. You heard the gentleman speak earlier. Now let's read here from the summary. For the purpose of authorizing the execution of an MOU with the Havre Grace Arts Collective Incorporated, agreement outlines the terms of installation of the sculpture in the North Park near Susquehanna Museum at the Lock House, and the project must be completed by May 31st, 2024, with the possibility of an extension under certain conditions. Committee pays $45,000 for design, material, labors, delivery, and installation. Ownership passes to the city upon final acceptance, and the city is responsible for maintenance and final acceptance. And I do have a question for either Adam or Steve, if I may. With the hopeful statue for we had the women's group here, the Women's Veterans Group.
Mm-hmm.
Where is this going to be in relation to that? Do you know?
Yes, the short answer is I'm not sure where the Veterans Group is thinking.
Okay.
But this is actually, in your packet, it shows the location, which would be on the east side, southeast side of the Lock House Lock.
Okay, thank you.
And this is a relatively small structure as compared to, I think, what the ladies are talking about. I would presume that would be over on the much further west.
Okay.
Off the grounds.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Council President. Any other questions or comments? Calendar Resolution 2023-12, roll call vote. Councilmember Boger?
Yes.
Council President?
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
By roll call vote of 4-0 in the affirmative, City Council Calendar Resolution concerning authorizing an agreement with Havre de Grace Arts Collective for a piece of public art, which is Resolution 2023-12. It is approved 4-0 in the affirmative. We're going to move to item 12, ordinances. This evening we have two ordinances on the docket. And the first one is going to be adopting a truck traffic work group recommendation and amending City Code 190-21. And, of course, it's going to be Councilmember Boyer.
Mayor, I make a motion to introduce an ordinance concerning adopting the truck traffic work group recommendations and amending City Code 190-21 90-21.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Boyer, and it's seconded by the Council President. This is a introduction to introduce an ordinance concerning adopting truck traffic work group recommendations. Questions or comments on the introduction? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce the ordinance carries 4-0 in the affirmative. An ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the annotated Code of Maryland, and Section 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter to adopt truck traffic work group recommendations to amend City Code 190-21. Council, this will be known as Ordinance 116.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Council, do I have a motion to adopt Ordinance 116 on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Boyer, seconded by the Council President. Questions or comments before the roll call? Okay. Roll call vote. Councilmember Boger.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
By roll call vote of 4-0 in the affirmative, City Council Ordinance 116 is adopted on first reading. And I believe the public hearing will be at the next council meeting on 21st, correct? Mm-hmm. All right, so we will have a public hearing on Ordinance 116. I'm sorry, 1116. 1116. I said 116 earlier. No, this is 1116. My
1116.
Yeah, sorry about that. 1116. Public hearing on 1116 will be, on Ordinance 1116, will be at the next scheduled council meeting, which will be August 21st at 7 p.m. Item B. Ordinance concerning Think Big. Council President.
Think big. All right, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion to introduce an ordinance concerning approving a contract with Think Big Networks, LLC for first reading.
Council, I have a motion by the Council President. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Boker. This is an ordinance approving a contract with Think Big Networks, LLC. This is an introduction of the ordinance. Are there any questions or comments on the introduction? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce an ordinance concerning Think Big Networks, LLC carries 4-0 in the affirmative. Council, this is going to be known as Ordinance 1117. 1117. An ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution. The local government article of the annotated Code of Maryland, Sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter, to approve contract with Think Big Networks, LLC. Council, to have a motion to adopt Ordinance 1117 on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Boyer, seconded by the Council President. Questions or comments before the roll call? Council President.
Now, I know the project's called Think Big, but this really is huge for the city. We have an option, and that's a big thing. Right now, if you wanted something other than Comcast, you had to get a satellite on your house or hope that you had decent 5G service at your house, which I know you and I don't. So it just makes sense that we enter an MOU with them and work out this agreement. We do have a specific plan to make sure that all parts of the city are serviced at an equitable rate. I believe it's they're starting up on the hill at that hub. For every 2 on that side of Route 40, they're going to start with 1 down here. So just to make it equitable per population-wise. But it's going to spread out quick. It's going to be considerably cheaper. It's going to be incredibly fast. And this is just something that I think the city really needs to move forward. I believe this also includes part of an idea to have free Wi-Fi downtown eventually.
Yeah, so there's going to be, with this, there'll be probably some amendments to the exhibits that'll be very specific as to where those locations are. We're going to actually map them out. And we're working with Mark from Think Big and Jeff Thompson right now, which will also include some of the hardware and some of the offsets for what they'll provide us and what the cost will be to them to put those services in. There'll be a companion lease that'll go along with this as well, because Think Big will need to use a portion of city property to store and house their fiber reels and their boxes and that sort of thing, which is sort of, it's part of this program, but it's a lease. So there's some lease arrangements that we have to come up with as well with them, based on size and square footage and so forth. But so there'll be additional information coming.
So can you give us a little tidbit about the marina or Tidings Park, what the plan is?
Yes, so the idea is it's really wide open. So we'll be able to run dark fiber throughout the city, and it'll have the availability to pull internet service in all of our parks at the marina. For that piece of it, what's really important with the Department of Public Works and City Hall itself is the ability now to be able to look at all of our towers, the telemetry on all of our pumps, towers, flow rates going in pipe. It's really, sky is truly the limit here with what they're going to allow us to be able to have access to. So those are all the things we're working on in this detailed agreement.
So like some of these improvements with the availability of the fiber optic, we're going to be able to see any like water loss and issues with city equipment, and we're going to end up saving money, hopefully.
Oh, sure. I think, yeah, I think it's just, it's going to be a whole new world for us on what we can and can't do. The other thing this will likely give us the opportunity to do is start upgrading our water meters residentially, because they'll be able, if there's drops going into or available to every house, there's going to be that availability to be able to read meters rather than the way that we do it now. So that's an opportunity down the road, I think, that will show itself. But yeah, the parks, the promenade, everywhere having that accessibility is going to be good. So one of the parts of this agreement that we're working on, don't forget, in order to run conduit in the city, there's a fee for conduit fee. There's a conduit fee that the city has to charge. And part of that, what we're working on now is what is that offset? So how is the citizen, is there some offset for Think Big to be able to lay this conduit and have the conduit there for X amount of years with some offsets that are going to provide availability to the citizens at no cost? And that would be looking at our parks and the infrastructure that would be out there for the general public to use at any time. So that's what part of this agreement's really taken into account.
Very nice. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Boyer?
Do we have any information in regards to the cost for commercial? Is it going to be the same? Do we have any ideas?
I don't have any idea. In fact, I'm glad publicly she said what the prices were. We were kind of spitballing some numbers. And so that sounds reasonable. I mean, I don't know if there's a commercial, I mean, glass is glass when it's going into a building, if, the fiberglass going in. So it's all based on, my learning curve was to try to think like a firefighter. So the fiber being the pipe, and the hardware being the parts. So the pipe can constantly flow as much as you can flow, as long as you got the pipes or the pumps big enough to push it and receive it. So it's unlimited the amount of gig speed you can get through a piece of fiberglass. The limitations are on how you get it there with the hardware and how you receive it. So and push back through it. So there's that aspect of it. So I don't know. They're talking about 1 gig per household, just starting out with the basic component parts that they put in. So
I have a second question. I remember, I don't know, was it like a year and a half ago, there was a elderly man who his telephone wouldn't work, and the telephone company wouldn't come fix it, wouldn't come fix the line.
Right.
So we clearly have some individuals within our community that have needs. Have they discussed anything in regards to how to provide just basic services for,
Well-
like telephone for somebody? When the telephone company won't come fix the line,
Yeah.
will they help us?
Well, you'll have an option of a phone service on this coming in. So what you're speaking of is, it was actually a lady that was out in near Bradford Green. But we've also had issues up in the mayor's neighborhood, up at Baylands condominiums, where a lot of there's some folks that have medical issues that they have to get online to do their telemedicine, and they couldn't connect. Now, Verizon did come up, and I think they did some work up there individually, but then I think tower-wise, council president said they made some upgrades up on the
Right, and that's
dish
the
at tower.
future of healthcare. Telehealth is definitely.
Yeah, so this is a big deal. The fact that they want to come in, and I mean they are like ready to come in. So we just got to make sure that we get a favorable deal to what they want to do, and it works. I think it's going to be a win-win for everybody.
It's exciting.
A grand slam, some might say.
Home run.
It's a big deal.
Building bridges. Councilmember Boger.
Yeah, just real quick, I think too, especially coming from the Chamber of Commerce, is that this is going to be a huge benefit to our businesses downtown. When you have such a big a pipe, right now, you can fail easily when you swipe a credit card and you try to go through Comcast or a merchant service, and you might lose that sale. I mean, that has a big impact on a single soul business owner, right? And I think we had a guest speaker tonight who actually mentioned something about QR codes, right? So saturating the city with some QR codes to kind of promote that is going to actually open up some better opportunities. And also efficiencies, and what I think will actually draw in some, be enticing for other businesses to come in and join, especially with right now, I think with planning, we're looking at, what can we do with the hospital, right? What can we do with that? So something like this, when you bring in that type of high speed, there's, that encourages businesses to come in and so forth. So, I'm certainly all about it. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boger. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we're going to do a roll call vote on ordinance 1117 on first reading. This is regarding ordinance with Think Big Networks LLC. Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Boger?
Yes.
Council President?
Yes.
And Councilmember Robertson?
Yes.
With four votes in the affirmative, ordinance 1117 is adopted on first reading. We will have the public hearing at the next council meeting on August 21st, next Monday, preceding the public hearing on ordinance 1116. I'm sorry, after the hearing on 1116, not preceding. Okay, it's all good. So next week, if you want to speak on 1116 or 1117, come to the city council meeting and we'll have a public hearing. We're going to go to item number 13, which is old business. This evening, we do have one item of old business, which is the extension of a declaration of a state of emergency for 800 block of Erie Street. Council President, did you want to bring that one up?
Yep. Mr. Mayor, Council, citizens all, because we're waiting for the ordinance to pass fully, we need to extend the Declaration of Independence. Declaration of Emergency. So I move to extend the declaration. We're still going to extend the Declaration of Independence.
The Declaration of
No, I'm declaring my independence from Comcast. All right, sorry. Mr. Mayor, Council, citizens all, I move to extend the declaration of the state of emergency 2023-03 for the 800 block of Erie Street.
Council, I have a motion by the Council President, seconded by Councilmember Robertson. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All Opposed, say nay. Declaration of state of emergency is for the 800 block of Avery Street is extended for another 30 days by a vote of 4-0 in the affirmative. Thank you, council. We're going to go to new business now, item 14, and this evening we have no new business. Item 15, director's report. We figured since it was a modified quick meeting tonight that we would forego the director's reports just to save a little bit of time. But we appreciate you all being here just in case. And so you never know what's going to come up. And so that leads us to item 16, business from the mayor's office. I'll keep my comments quick. I want to congratulate the Havre Grace Little League Senior All-Star Softball team that won the state championship like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And not only won the state championship, but then went to New England. They went to Worcester, Massachusetts to play in the regionals up there. And Worcester, you know?
Worcester?
Yeah. They went to Worcestershire, Massachusetts. And they played, I think, 4 games, and they did really well. But unfortunately, when it was down to the last game against Rhode Island, they lost 4-3. If they would have won that game, they would have gone to the national championship. But it's pretty cool. I actually drove up there to see one game. And it's pretty cool when you see I got to throw out the first pitch, too. The game they won. Anyway, but it's really cool when you see the scoreboard and it says Maryland versus like Connecticut or Maryland versus New Hampshire or New Jersey, and it's Havre Grace is Maryland. It was our girls from here that represented the state of Maryland. So it was pretty cool, and I think we're working on bringing them in for some recognition at the next council meeting.
Yeah, sure, they'll be here at the next meeting. I do want to point out that I got them a Havre Grace flag that they were flying there at the championships up there, at the regional championships. So it was pretty cool. And they actually, they had a contest there where the girls all got together and made posters representing where they're from, and Havre Grace won the poster contest. They, Sarah Weitzel drew the picture of the lighthouse and a couple other things, and it was fabulous. And they ended up winning, I don't know what they got for it, but they won the poster contest just representing Havre Grace, so it was pretty cool.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Council President. And congratulations to their coach, Chris Menser. And so hopefully we'll have them here for a little Havre Grace recognition at the next council meeting. Very well deserved. And finally, the trolleys just keep rolling. I love the trolley program, and I really enjoy the data. And I just enjoy sharing the data with everybody. 4 trolleys ran for 6 days so far in the month of August, the first 2 weekends. About almost 2,000 riders, 336 running hours, 1,275 miles, all electric, and no incidents. So with that said, we still have right in the middle of the summer in Havre Grace here. Fall's only a couple weeks away. Football season's 5 weeks away, and it's a good time of year. And school's coming up before you know it. I know everybody's going to be free between 7:45 and 3:30. That's right. I know, except for me. All right, thank you very much, everyone. We're going to roll to council comments, and we got Councilmember Boyer.
I just want to thank council for taking the first steps to approve the truck traffic work group's recommendations. The work group really did put a lot of work into it, and it's just great to see it all come to fruition and come to a close. So just keeping it short, Matilda, hopefully you all have your tickets. I have 1 boat in my fleet that's still open. If anybody would like to ride, you can please ride with on the fleet. You can paddle with us. And just to point out to everybody that it's part of the money will also be going to help the American Legion fix the pavilion, to fix it up. So you can pay to ride and just not actually get in a boat if you would like to help support the American Legion. Hopefully we can make this something, Matilda's Ride, that we do every year, because it really does show off all the great scenic views of Havre Grace all the way down and around, and plus it's a lot of fun. So again, I have 1 boat left, anybody wants to ride, just let me know. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyer. I'd like to go to Councilmember Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I have no comments.
Thank you, sir. Is there anything you'd like to say about that? I'm just kidding. Councilmember Boger.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity, Mayor Martin, I appreciate that. I would like to talk about the Eagle Court of Honor that I attended on August the 5th. It was a great honor. I'll let the CP talk a little bit more about that, but that was a great honor, and I really appreciate the invite. Seeing these young scouts go from this to Eagle Scout was truly incredible, and the show of support was even better. I will tell you, this is a sad week for me because on Wednesday, the 16th, August 16th, in 1977, we lost a great one. Elvis Presley passed. Mayor, I know you got a pair of glasses in your office, and I'm going to borrow those tonight.
Sure.
But anything beyond that, I want to extend my gratitude and thanks to the host company, the police department, and the EMT for all the hard work that they do and keeping this city safe. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Boger. Appreciate it. Council President.
Mr. Mayor, Council, citizens all, I do need to apologize. I didn't make it to a meeting in July. The first meeting I was expected to be out. I went to Scout Camp, had a blast. It was incredibly hot. It was insanely hot, and I guess I overdid it. Despite drinking as much water as I could, the 30,000 steps a day I did, and I'm not exaggerating, I literally hiked every single trail on the campus. I ended up with like kidney failure, so really bad off. So, and that's despite gaining weight from water weight, because I don't know, just drank as much as I could, couldn't get enough in, and laid me up for a while, but I'm better now. So I thank everybody for the thoughts and prayers and all the calls and everything I got. Means a lot to me. So. I was able to make it to Paul Davis and Ben Duff's Eagle Court of Honor, which was fabulous. I couldn't believe how well attended it was. It was the chief was there, yeah, Johnny was there. We had a ton of people. The mayor was there with me. I said the chief. She was recruiting. Oh, she was, yeah. It's kind of funny. I leaned forward and because I was sitting behind the chief and I was sitting behind Deputy Bobby Royster from the Sheriff's Department. I said, yeah, Ben over here, he's looking to join the DNR. And Bobby wasn't going to sit down for that. So he went up there. As soon as it was over, he started recruiting him. We can start you off right now. And I said, no, if you're going to recruit him anywhere away from DNR, he's coming to Havre Grace. So it was it was wonderful seeing these boys put the time and effort into their projects. And there are a lot of troops out there, they call them Eagle Mills because the dads do a lot of the work. That's not the truth with this troop. Troop 965 is just so fabulous, and the boys, they work hard. And this weekend I worked on Kai Olson's Eagle project down at the Moore Homestead. We did a raised bed garden, and they call it a back saver raised bed garden. So it's a little bit higher about the height of a standard desk, so people don't have to bend over as far to do gardening. So people with physical issues can still do that. And that was also well attended. Showed up for that and dropped my son off of football, and I showed up to work. But it was a good time, and just it was great seeing that. And Kai asked me if we had any projects, and Miss Bloom had mentioned that she wanted something like that. I helped Ben get his project. We got another coming up. Paul Davis's brother is going to be working on. I got to talk to the mayor about that, about a kiosk down at possibly the new boat ramp. We've got. See here, Jack Lambert's going to do AEDs around the city. They're going to be really cool boxes where if you call 911, they give you a code, you punch it in, it's got Narcan and an AED in there, and we're going to have several of those around the city. We have, no, that was Jack Lambert. The bat boxes are, one of our boys is doing bat boxes, I can't remember who. And we've got all those put up. My son will hopefully next month make his Life Scout, and we'll start working on one. We're going to look at doing a floating vegetation platform down at the Lock House. So, we've got lots of boys, lots of projects around the city, and this is one thing that we talked about, if you remember, Chief, way back when, back in like 2016, 2017, when we started the Wage and Benefits Commission. These small little jobs and stuff around the city, the improvements around the city that we can farm out to other people. We're not paying city employees to do it. And it's great. We know that we want a floating vegetation platform down there, and we want the kiosk and information thing down by where the kayaks are going to be launching. We need the raised bed garden. We were donated the bat boxes. We want the AEDs up. And these are things that our city employees don't have to do because we have scouts in our community that are doing it. And beyond Troop 965, we have Troop 967 down at the church, both the boys and the girls side. They're doing projects too, and it's fabulous to see just some activity in the community. But I'll move on. You know, like the mayor said, school's starting up, and every year I tell everybody, be careful when you're parking over here. First off, those crosswalks, you know, you see a kid there, you gotta stop, it's state law. Just, you know, watch out for our kids, and don't park on the yellow curb. That's there for a reason, so we have a sight line for especially the smaller kids on Saturdays when they're running out after the football game, not paying attention. They're excited about the game, and they run out in the traffic. You don't see them because somebody else is parked on that yellow line. So just don't do it. If I'm sitting in the booth, I'm gonna call, I'll give you a warning. If you don't move it right away, I'm gonna call the police department and have you ticketed and towed. So that's me as a citizen, Jimmy, not a city councilman. I do volunteer work with the football program still, working the booth as an announcer for the rec team. So just please don't park there. But other than that, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. I know we have another meeting, and I have to say this. All right, give me a second here. That's the wrong one. Let me see. There we go. Presiding officer's oral statement for a closed meeting. Under the Open Meetings Act, General Provision, Article 3-305. Make a motion to go into closed session upon adjournment of the open session on Monday, August 14th, 2023, to consider the following matters. To consider the acquisition of real property for a public purpose. This meeting will be closed under General Provisions, Article Section 3-305B, subsection 3, to consider the acquisition of real property for a public purpose and matters directly related thereto. The reason for the closing of this meeting is deliberations for acquisition of real property in a confidential setting is in the city's and public's best interests and are permitted under the Open Meetings Act. The City Council will not resume open session after the closed session, and votes, if any, will be recorded in public at the council meeting on Monday, August 21st, 2023. And that is my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Council, I have a motion by the council president to move into closed session. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Seconded by Councilmember Boker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to go into closed session at the adjournment of this meeting carries 4-0 in the affirmative. Thank you, council. And we're going to go to item 19, which is adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by the council president. Do I get a second for adjournment? So second by Councilmember Boker. Just checking. All questions or comments on adjournment? All those in favor say aye. All against adjourning say nay. Adjournment is approved 4-0 in the affirmative. The time is now 9:51 p.m. on August 14th. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a safe evening. We'll be back on August 21st.